Hello, Humane marketers. Sarah Znekrocha here. Welcome to another episode of the Humane Marketing Podcast, a place to be for the generation of marketers who cares. This is the show where we talk about marketing your business in a way that feels good to you, is aligned with your values, and also resonates more with your conscious customers because it's not pushy, ethical, and also beautiful. So if you're a regular here, you know that I'm organizing the conversations around the 7 Ps of humane marketing. And if you're new here and this is your first time, welcome. I'm so excited you're here. You may want to download your one-page marketing plan with the 7 Ps of humane marketing in the form of a mandala at humane.marketing/one page, the number one and page. So again, humane.marketing/one page. And with that, with no further ado, let's dive into today's conversation. Hi, Sophie. So good to have you on the Humane Marketing Podcast.
Hi, Sarah. I'm delighted to be here.
Wonderful. Yeah, I just thought it would be such a great topic to talk to you in as you know, doing these conversations in the P's of humane marketing, and one of the first one is the passion P. And I'm like, who do I know that is passionate? And you and your passion project, the Marketing Mutiny, came to mind because I was just recently participating or kind of featured, I guess you would say. So I thought that makes a great conversations. Obviously, it's very aligned with how we think here about marketing. So yeah, why don't we get started with you kind of telling us about the Marketing Mutiny project, why you created it and what it is.
Yeah, so I have been in the entrepreneurial world for, what am I going to say, 11 years. And I have seen so many programs and so many tactics and so many, shiny objects that come into the field of vision of new entrepreneurs. And I have coached a lot of them, and I have seen the devastation, I want to say, that a lot of these marketing tactics, that it wreaks havoc with the entrepreneur's life and ambition and their opportunity for growing, because we come into the world of entrepreneurship with the passion we have for our expertise, what it is we can help people with, but we don't know about marketing usually. And so we start to sign up for all these different programs, and then it gets overly complicated. It's the opposite of what all of your marketing is about, the way you see entrepreneurship. So I have seen in my coaching a lot of entrepreneurs who are burnt out, discouraged, don't understand what they need to do next. And I just was getting more and more and more frustrated and then angry at all of this noise. And I thought, there is another way of doing business, but a lot of people don't know it until they've gone through the whole process of getting burnt, and sometimes they give up. And so I thought, well, if you get angry enough, you get to a point where, like, I got to do something about this, and what can I do? So I came across this kind of project, and I thought, well, this is perfect. I will get some people, invite them in, talk about it, and we'll just all together make as much noise as we can about it, so we can crowd out all those aggressive marketers, and new entrepreneurs can hear about these humane ways of doing business.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously it reminds me of my own story, my own, burnout, sitting on a therapist chair and all of that. And it's interesting because you have 11 years, I have almost 15 years. So I think we've kind of been exposed to the same, gurus and marketers and all of that. And it's just, yeah, seeing that overwhelm, seeing that frustration from
from maybe ourselves, but also from all these people that we're coaching, is just like too much. It is too much. And so, yeah, you calling it a project, which I really like. And I think we can give a shout out to Ellie Trier, who has been on the podcast before, right? And is a common friend of ours. And she's kind of really like started this maybe idea of instead of calling it a marketing campaign, maybe calling it a marketing, or not even calling it a project, right? Let's call it a passionate project, because yeah, it is tied into passion and maybe, like you said, anger. But that's great passion if there's some really strong emotion related to it, like anger. And what I love about it is this community aspect to it. You called it a conversation. So tell us about this a bit more, how you structured this. And people are probably commonly used to an online summit, so maybe compare it to an online summit.
Yeah, so that's a good starting point to give people sort of a frame of reference for how it worked. The commonalities is that you're bringing specific people to speak about a topic, and so you have an overarching topic, and then you're bringing these people to speak and contribute, their thoughts to it. The big difference I find, and I was always frustrated with summits where you'd watch a video, you get really excited, and then what? You want to talk to the person who spoke, and you want to talk to other people about it, and you've got nowhere to go.
You're kind of siloed. Yeah.
Yeah. Most of the time, it's just like you're just absorbing and no way to go. So I think everything happens through conversations. That's my passion, is conversations and connections between people. So I said, okay, I want to bring these people, but I want to create it in a way that will generate conversations, because it's not about, well, it is of course about the 10 minutes that I have invited people to speak, but it's about all the thoughts that it generates in the entrepreneurs who want to have benefit from this. So I created a container where people could have these conversations, and it was so lovely to have people, react and be able to comment and ask each other questions. And if I do it in my business, what would that look like? That's what I wanted. And it's worked. It was great.
Yeah. And I love that you said you created the container. I think that's really what I'm doing with the Humane Marketing Circle, which you're also part of. And I think it's really this, it took me a lot of time to realize that hosting the container is a lot of value. Because we're so trained to think, oh, I have to, create all these videos and create all this content and, record thousands of speakers, things like that, where actually the value is in the container, and you then kind of facilitating in this container and just bringing in these little, thoughtful reflections that people can have conversations around. Do you feel like that people got that value? They understood that?
Yes. And I also think that there's room for me to do something more with it. So I'm kind of in a transition phase, because what happened was, this was a project, it was for a month, and I had 10 entrepreneurs, and then that was going to be it. Right. And what actually happened is that I didn't know exactly what to expect. It was a bit of an experiment,
right?
But I got a lot of interest, and I got a lot of connections, and I really enjoyed it. And I think the people who were in it really enjoyed it. And whenever I spoke about, oh, I don't really want it to end, everybody was like, no, keep it going. Right. So I thought about, I had to change the format a little bit, but it's now sort of an ongoing project. So I'm not doing them every other day, like during that month, because that's just not sustainable. But I'm doing 2 a month, and
two speakers a month.
Yes, so 2 new entrepreneurs who do marketing differently each month, and I had to streamline how it happens. And so I'm a little bit in the transition process right now. It's, the momentum was not there anymore because I didn't
Right.
do it right away. So momentum is important as well when you're, promoting something.
Right.
So I think there is community, and there's also room for changing and evolving how I can nurture that even better.
Right. But I do feel like it's become bigger than just a project for you. To me, and by the way, we met through that, right? And so obviously, yeah, our values are very much aligned. And so it's not necessarily the outcomes maybe that you had thought, but then there's all these new people that you meet, and to me, it's really not like, now this is part of your marketing, this is part of your worldview. It's just like humane marketing is about the same idea as like, let's do marketing differently, right? And so Marketing Mutiny is now part of your worldview, and you're a LinkedIn consultant in your day job. And so people who will resonate with the Marketing Mutiny are gonna rather hire you than any other LinkedIn consultant, because they resonate on that worldview level. And that's the beauty about this passion project, I feel.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of the values were already sort of what I was talking about and embodying in my content all the time. And so I think over time I've been attracting these kinds of people who were attracted to this.
Right.
And then I think that's what caused Marketing Mutiny to be so popular, at least among my audience. And it kind of gave it a form, a word, a name, a concept that people could really rally around. That before wasn't there. It was more, amorphous.
It was like abstract, where now it's like, oh,
yeah, it's like, oh yes, this is the thing, And I have to say, one of the biggest benefits of the project that I did not expect, and that I think is actually even better than anything I could have imagined, is all the people that came out of the woodwork, so to speak, who I found out about, like you, for example, through the project. And so I realized, as I was like not even halfway through, that I had listed 10. And then as I was going through, I was like, oh, but there's this person and that person and that person. And I could actually have featured 20 or 30. And I was like, this is fantastic, because that means, because before I was thinking, okay, I have to make all the noise, to crowd out all those big marketing names. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. But, it's just me. I'll do what I can. Now there's so many of us, we can really all get together and be heard more.
Right.
So that was the biggest benefit.
Yeah, and maybe it's a good thing that you only realized that they're here, because otherwise you would have been tempted to put everybody into the same months, and then it would have been kind of like an overload again. And now you have all these people who are like, you can really spread it out over time. So you said, okay, it's going to be an ongoing thing. So yeah, how do you see this evolving?
Since I've started, I have this list of people. I'm actually now booked, so to speak, till December. So whoever I invite next, which I'm at a point where I have to like withhold. I can't like invite someone and say, oh, you'll be featured in January,
Yeah.
So it's a bit frustrating because I want more.
Right.
But at the same time, there's a little bit of, behind the scenes work that needs to happen. So I've actually hired a VA part-time to kind of help me with this, but it's not, directly money generating. So I have to kind of, manage what's bringing in. So anyway,
no, I really like you address that point, because I think that's the part of passion that we can easily kind of get over passionate about. And then especially as givers and empaths, we're like, oh, but this is so great, we want to do more. And then kind of go, wait a bit, how do I manage in terms of the bills, and now I actually need to hire somebody, a VA to help me with it. So I'm actually putting money out of my pocket. So it is a thing that we need to be realistic about and say, this is how much I can put in. And in a way, I don't know if you agree, but in a way, you just kind of need to trust that what you give in will come back manyfold, potentially.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, in April, I had an absolute blast for a whole month, but I didn't get much work done
right
other than that. So I had my clients, and that was it. So it's finding that balance. You're absolutely right. On the other hand, so I could do one a week, but it's just not sustainable. But on the other hand, like you said, there's a momentum, there's conversations that happen. I mean, look at you and I. So we met, and I was like, wow, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So I, signed up for your circle. I'm on your podcast. So there's like all these benefits through that. More people would hear about me and, maybe become clients. So it's a whole ecosystem. And I think that's exactly what you teach with the 7 Ps and humane marketing. So you got to find that balance.
It's trusting the invisible. It almost feels like, and that is not often what we hear in marketing. It's more about the stats and numbers and conversions. And here we're talking about something intangible, untangible, and kind of, invisible. And yet we know it works.
Yeah.
But while we're still in the moment, it's sometimes a bit scary to trust it.
Yeah. A concrete example of that is that, for the integrity of the project, I wanted people to be able to sign up to get the emails, to get, the contributions, the videos, etc. But I didn't want them to go on my regular list.
Right.
Because, that's all for marketing my offers.
Right.
And so I set up this place separately on my system, and they were tagged and they were excluded from the other emails. And then I had a few people say, well, you're saying that we're not going to receive your emails. Well, what if we want to? So I said, okay. So I added a line like, you're not on my main list, but if you want to, and through that, and through being on LinkedIn, and through looking, just finding out peripherally about me, a lot of the people did sign up for my list. So it's interesting to see those dynamics. Like, people were just in there for the Marketing Mutiny, but then they wanted to hear more about the rest of me and what I do. So it ended up, being good. And a couple of people have become clients.
That's so interesting. It's almost like, as marketers, because I also see you as a humane marketer, right? We almost want to, especially because we're kind of going against the bro marketing, we're like, oh, we got to be super careful about what we're doing. And then we almost take it to a level where people then go, but I wanted this. So please, send me your emails.
Overdo it.
I have added this line to my promotions, kind of the big programs where people can unsubscribe also from the emails. And thanks to Adam, who's in our circle as well, who taught us how to do that. Wanted to, never figured it out. So now I know. And then I also have people, oh, I accidentally pushed that link, and now can you please, I want to keep receiving your emails. I'm like, wow, that's unexpected. It's really interesting how we're kind of like walking on eggshells now, because we're like, oh yeah, we definitely don't want to do the bro marketing thing. But then we don't want to block people out either. So
and it's interesting how it really, I find our kind of marketing really changes the relationship that we have with our readers, with our audience, clients especially, but even just our audience. Like, there's something like a human connection that I feel is not there when you're in some of these other people's lists. It's like, it's just a transaction. It's just a piece of paper. It's an email, but it's concrete. It's not, there's no humanness in it. So
Yeah, and I think it's the transparency. What I always say, humane marketing, how is it different? It is really about the transparency and explaining everything you do. So by, you saying you're not going to be added to my list, but if you want to, then you can do so here. Where until now everything has been so kind of in the shadow and kind of like shady, and that's what has created this huge mistrust in marketing. It's like, oh, what if I put my email in and then I'm going to get all of these things, where here it's like, well, it's all out there, this is what's going to happen. So I feel like really this transparency is so key in marketing.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of it has to do with letting people have their agency. And that was actually what one of the contributors in the April Marketing Mutiny, that was her value that she mentioned in her video was agency, giving your customers agency. And I think that's what we are robbed of by the bro marketers, bully marketers, is, like you sign up for something and you kind of feel like you're being sucked into something. You don't have full agency over what happens next.
Right.
So I think that's one of the key elements that we, have for our audience and our
customers. It's all about giving the power back. I really feel like the last 10 years we have disempowered our clients, and exactly giving the power back. What I'd love I'd love you to share is kind of like, if listeners are like, wow, that project sounds interesting, if they wanted to run their own kind of community project, what would you tell them? Where should they start? Like, what do they need to think about first? What would make a good topic, maybe things like that?
Yeah. So I think what's very important is to find a topic that you feel strongly about emotionally, that others will rally around. So think of it as a movement, right? And you can start it small. You don't need to be scared by the word movement, but that's what I feel Marketing Mutiny is, right? It's this idea with all kinds of ramifications underneath, but it's an overarching concept that it's you're standing for something or against something. It's a big idea. It's something people can rally around.
Right.
That to me is the key thing for a project like this.
Right.
It can also be a topic where you want to have people explore different aspects of a topic. So I don't know, like let's say burnout, like there's a lot of issues with burnout, all kinds of reasons why burnout happens, all kinds of therapies you can use, there's like a lot of different avenues. And so you could take a topic and then explore all the different ways of talking about it and how that can become bigger conversation.
Right.
That's what I would say.
What I was thinking while you were talking is, like, usually, a marketer or a business coach would tell you to have like this goal for this project. It's like, oh, they have these beautiful conversations, and then Sophie comes in and sells them this LinkedIn consulting package. But that's not how it went, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
How do we, it's really like this mindset shift. It's like, wait a minute, I'm just hosting conversations and there's not like a funnel, what they're going to do next. And then they're going to, go on this webinar and buy this thing. So tell us the reasoning behind that.
Yeah, I obviously subconsciously thought it was, goes without saying, but clearly it's not. I shouldn't think that.
Yeah.
So yes, it has to be a topic that is, related to what you do, or that reflects your worldview, that impacts how you do business. But it should not be. And some people have used these projects to, you know, actually get leads and get them into a funnel and all of this. But I think it is really critical. It's the same thing I say about how to use LinkedIn, but, you know, that's another story. But it's critical to disassociate from the outcome. Just leave the outcome. Do it for the beauty of it. Do it for the conversations. Do it because it's good for society and the world at large to have this conversation and to raise awareness of whatever the topic you've chosen.
Right.
So yeah, no, if you do it with, I mean, I have no doubt it would work in bringing you leads, you know, but that is not the reason you should be doing it. You should do it not for that reason.
Right. I also think that, you know, like you even said, the clients will emerge out of it. But it's in that organic, humane way, because they resonate with your worldview and with your passion so much. And you just happen to be very, very good at LinkedIn. So it's kind of like, by the way,
yeah,
I'm also that. Yeah.
it's a good backdrop because, you know, when people, you know, hear about me through Marketing Mutiny and they realize, oh, actually, I do have this LinkedIn question, problem, whatever, they know already that the way I'm going to approach LinkedIn is not going to be sending 100 DMs a day,
right,
and, you know, sending spammy DMs. I mean, they know that, so it's
exactly
easier and.
Yeah, exactly. It's like part of your worldview. And that's, by the way, why I transitioned out of LinkedIn, because I was like, you know, I could not deal with another, you know, discovery call where people were asking me to sell 1,000 leads or get them 1,000 leads. And I'm like, this is just not for me. And I see now, obviously, that I transitioned out of it, that I should have led with humane marketing, just like you're doing, right? And that's how you then get the right people. So yeah, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, when somebody comes to me saying, you know, what's a good way of phrasing my DM outreach? I'm like, oh,
yeah,
it's not gonna go.
Wrong person.
We're going to have a very short conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Another kind of similar event type that I've just seen, Petchy, don't know if you know Petchy, another common friend. Yeah, so she's doing some kind of roundtable event, and I really also resonated with that approach, where it's, you know, still a conversation, but it's a roundtable conversation. And I'm really looking forward to that as well. So I think, you know, it's in the zeitgeist. It's like, well, people don't want to just be talked down to or kind of like talked to, and they want to be heard and seen and have conversations. And it's really
it's really breaking down the barriers, you know, like summits are, you know, you're over there in the summit, you know, video, and I'm here in my office, and that's it. And with these projects, it's like, oh, so how I could see myself absorbing some of that information, because I can have that back and forth. I can interact with the person presenting. I can talk with other people about what it would look like. And it makes it all possible. It makes it all, you know, usable and
it's
real.
Approachable, because you don't feel like, oh, look at these, you know, gurus who are the summit speakers and they're so detached from everything, where now it's like, well, they're just part of the conversation. Same human level.
I think people were surprised at first. They're like, oh, so the person in the video is actually responding to me? It's like they're also
they're so famous they can't even, you know, respond to it. That's funny. Yeah, please do tell us where people can join the Marketing Mutiny, that now that it's an ongoing thing. I'm sure all the listeners are like, oh, tell us how.
Yeah, so as I said, I was, you know, I'm transitioning to a new way of doing it, because I didn't want to have to send all these emails. And so I've streamlined it for myself and to be able to continue doing it. So what I've decided to do is to actually feature the entrepreneurs in my LinkedIn newsletter. The reason I did that is because I have quite a big following there. And so those people will get an email with the newsletter. So every other newsletter, it's kind of my goings on about LinkedIn, and every other newsletter is a Marketing Mutiny entrepreneur being featured.
Nice.
So that's the way to receive this information, and then the conversation takes place in the comments to the newsletter, which are then all gathered in the LinkedIn group. But that's behind the scenes. If people want to have one place to find everything, that's in the LinkedIn group.
Wonderful. All right. So we'll link to the newsletter in that case in the show notes, and people can find it there. Or I guess otherwise they can also come to your website. So what's your website URL?
Yes, my website is themagnetmodel.com. And there's the second part of that link. If you want to go straight to all the Marketing Mutiny stuff, is Marketing Mutiny ebook. So themagnetmodel.com/Marketing Mutiny ebook. It's a bit long, but we'll put it in the show. You put it in the show notes, right?
Wonderful. Yeah. And I assume people can find you on LinkedIn because that's where you mostly hang out.
That's probably the easiest of all, is just find me there and you'll find all the stuff, all the stuff about LinkedIn, but all the stuff about the Marketing Mutiny there.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having this passion project conversation. I really loved it, and I love what you're doing, and I love having you in the Humane Marketing Circle. So thank you for that. I always have one last question that I ask all my guests, and that is, what are you grateful for today or this week?
I am grateful for all the wonderful people, including you, that I've discovered through Marketing Mutiny, and for the joy of doing business in a way that is aligned with what I love, aligned with what I'm passionate about. And this is the way to be an entrepreneur, and every day is a joy. So that's what I'm grateful for.
Thank you. Me too.
Thanks.
Great hanging out with you. Thanks, Sophie.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
Thanks so much for watching and being part of a generation of marketers who cares for yourself, for your clients, and for the planet. We really are change makers before we are marketers. So go ahead, be the change you want to see in the world. And I hope to see you again next week. Take care.